All right, get ready for The Bond Report. We're diving into another awesome episode of The Bond today. You know that show that explores how connecting with nature through, our hobbies can actually help create a more sustainable world?
Yeah, it's a really cool concept. Every episode, we meet these experts who are so passionate about their own, unique connection to nature. And in this one, we've got Todd Mansur from Luke Brown Yachts.
I'm so glad he's just so knowledgeable. He's got this calm, expert vibe, but also throws in these awesome stories that just pull you right in.
Yeah.
What stood out to you most in this part of the interview?
Well, right away, Todd talks about how versatile yachts are. He's like, they're not just for, leisurely cruises. They can be these amazing platforms for, experiencing marine ecosystems and even doing things like fishing.
Okay, that's interesting. I always thought of yachts as more for sipping cocktails and looking glamorous, But it makes sense. You're right there on the water, totally immersed in everything.
Exactly. And speaking of fishing, Todd gets into some really interesting stuff about how fresh fish is. He explains how flash freezing with nitrogen can actually make the texture of certain fish even better.
Really? I thought freezing always made fish, mushy.
Yeah, a lot of people think that. Todd explains that the way they freeze fish with flash freezing, it happens so fast that it stops those big ice crystals from forming, which is what usually makes the fish, kind of break down. It keeps the texture and the taste way better.
Oh, wow. So it's like a super freezer.
Yeah.
I wonder if he does sushi making classes on board. A fish market owner who knows all about flash freezing on a yacht. Sounds like the ultimate seafood experience, right?
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
He doesn't actually mention sushi classes in this episode, though. But he does talk about how therapeutic it is to be out on the water, which goes back to that whole the bond thing about connecting with nature.
Totally. I always feel way more relaxed when I'm near water. Even just sitting by a lake or listening to the waves at the beach, that rhythmic sound is just so calming.
There's actually science behind that, too. Studies have shown that the sounds of water can, literally calm down our nervous systems, reducing stress and anxiety. And Tom's seen this happen with his passengers. He tells these stories about how, even on days when they don't catch a lot of fish, people still come back feeling so refreshed, like they've escaped all their worries for a while.
I can definitely relate to that. Sometimes just getting away from everything, even for a little bit, makes a huge difference. What about people who get seasick, though? Does Todd have any tips for those of us who, aren't exactly nautical?
He does. He recommends taking Bonine or Dramamine the night before you head out on the water. He says that can really help to, head off any seasickness.
That's a good tip. I'm definitely someone who needs all the help I can get with motion sickness. But, even beyond all the practical advice, what really impressed me about Todd was how passionate he is about conservation. He actually works with organizations like CCA, NOAA, and Scripps to protect our oceans.
Yeah, his commitment to the environment is so inspiring. And he makes a really interesting point about fishermen often being misunderstood when it comes to conservation.
Oh, right. He said something about them being on the front lines, directly experiencing how the ocean is changing.
Exactly. Todd's really passionate when he talks about how many fishermen are super aware of the ecosystems and, doing things sustainably. They understand how delicate the balance of marine life is because they're out there seeing it every single day.
That's a perspective we don't hear very often. It reminds us that there are so many different ways to be involved in conservation. It's not always about those big, sweeping changes or policies. Sometimes it starts with a deep understanding of and respect for nature, coming from direct experience and really wanting to protect what you love.
I totally agree. And that actually makes me think of Todd mentioning all the information that's available online, especially on NOAA's website. He really emphasizes how anyone can access those resources, if they want to learn more about the ocean.
NOAA, that's the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, right? I've definitely heard of them, but I haven't really looked into their website much. What kind of stuff can you find there?
Oh, tons of stuff. You can find everything from the latest research on marine ecosystems to data on ocean currents and even weather patterns. They even have stuff for teachers and students. So it'd be perfect for your brother if he's interested in learning more about waste disposal and how it affects the ocean, especially in a place like Southern California with so many people.
That's awesome. I'll have to send him the link. It's great to know all that information is out there for anyone who wants to learn more. It's easy to feel kind of down about all the environmental stuff we hear, but Todd's actually pretty optimistic overall.
Yeah, he is. He's really hopeful about the environmental progress that's been made in Southern California, even with the population growing so much. He really believes that the things individuals do can make a difference. He even uses the example of just picking up a single bottle cap.
That's a really powerful image. It reminds us that we don't have to wait for like huge policy changes or some new technology
Yeah.
to start making a difference. We could start right now, right where we are, by making little choices that help the planet.
Exactly. It's about changing how we think, going from feeling helpless to feeling like we can actually do something. And I think that's also part of Todd's approach to yachting. He's not just selling some luxury experience, he's selling a connection to nature, a way to really experience how awesome and amazing the ocean is.
I love that. It's like he's saying, here's this incredible world, come explore it with me. And that sense of adventure, wanting to discover what's out there, that's what makes the bond so interesting to watch.
Speaking of adventure, remember that website we saw the other day with those funny socks? It was
Yeah.
called xpfe.fun,
Yeah.
xpfe.fun.
Oh, yeah. Those sock sailor. I thought they were so funny. They look totally normal from the outside, but then, bam, you flip them over, and they're parrots on the soles.
Right. They'd be perfect for you. You seem so put together, but secretly have that adventurous side.
Okay, maybe a little. But seriously, I think those socks would be great for anyone who loves the ocean, or even just anyone who likes a fun surprise.
Absolutely. They're a fun way to show your personality and add a little fun to your day. And it's funny how those socks kind of tie back into Todd's story. He's all about finding that balance, enjoying the good things in life, but also being mindful of the environment.
For sure. You can be a successful yacht broker and still care deeply about protecting the planet. You can wear awesome socks and still care about, where they came from and how they were made. It's about finding that sweet spot where you're doing what you love and having a positive impact meet.
And that, I think, is what the bond is all about. It's recognizing that we're all connected. Our choices affect not just us, but everyone and everything around us.
So true. Todd's story really shows that bigger idea. He's combined his passion for yachting with his commitment to conservation, and in doing so, he's inspiring other people to do the same.
It's a good reminder that we all have the power to make a difference, even if it seems small. Sometimes those little things, like picking up a bottle cap or choosing sustainably sourced seafood, can have a big impact.
This conversation has definitely given me a lot to think about. I'm feeling inspired to be more aware of my own choices and to find more ways to connect with nature in my daily life.
Me too. It's all about finding those small moments of joy and appreciation, whether it's going for a walk in the park, listening to birds, or just taking a deep breath of fresh air.
And maybe rocking some awesome socks with a fun little secret.
Of course. Can't forget the socks. But yeah, I think Todd's story reminds us that it's not about being perfect. It's about trying our best, being aware of our choices, and finding ways to connect what we're passionate about with something bigger than ourselves.
So well said. Jill Bonda would be proud.
Definitely. And I think we'll be hearing more from Todd Mansur in the future.
I hope so. I'd love to, maybe go for a boat ride with him someday. Maybe even take a sushi making class.
Now you're talking. That's a Bond episode I would totally watch.
It's really interesting what Todd said about Southern California actually having cleaner water and air now than back in the 60s. And that's with way more people living here now. Crazy, right?
That is pretty amazing when you think about it. It really shows that things can change for the better when, there are good regulations and people start to care more about the environment.
Exactly. It proves that even with challenges like more and more people, we can still make progress if we work together and make sustainability a priority.
It's like what Todd was saying about everyone doing their part, even if it seems small. Like, even just picking up a bottle cap can be part of the solution.
Totally. Those small actions add up and can inspire other people to do the same.
It's funny, Todd's focus on individual action kind of reminds me of what Jo Bond talks about a lot on her show, She always encourages viewers to find their own ways to connect with nature, whether it's gardening, hiking, or just taking a moment to appreciate the beauty around them. That's a great point. It's about building that personal connection to nature because that's often what motivates us to protect it.
Speaking of connections, it really stood out to me how many of the yacht brokers at Luke Brown Yachts, their backgrounds show this deep connection to the ocean.
Yeah. It's not just Todd. It seems like a lot of them have spent a lot of time sailing, fishing, or working on boats.
Like Steve Dean. He built his first boat when he was only 14 and even had to, change his parents' house to get it out. Talk about dedication.
That's wild. And then there's Colton Miner, who's based in San Diego. His dad was a commercial abalone diver, so his love for the ocean goes way back. He even started his own yacht management company.
It's like their passion for the ocean is built into the company itself. And a lot of them have experience with conservation work, too.
Yeah, like Pam Barlow. She's been a broker since 1979 and actually spent 6 months helping to build a sailboat in New England.
Their stories are so inspiring. They show how a love for the ocean can become a lifelong passion and a commitment to taking care of it.
It's really cool.
This episode has definitely given me a whole new perspective on the yachting world. It's not just about luxury and fancy stuff. It's about a deep love for the sea and a sense of responsibility for protecting it.
I agree. It's been really interesting to explore these different sides of the industry and see how passion and sustainability can go together.
And speaking of passion, we can't forget about those sock sailors. They're like the perfect thing for anyone who shares that love for the ocean.
Definitely. They're a fun, kind of quirky way to express that connection.
I can totally picture myself wearing them while, sailing through the Caribbean or something.
Oh, I could see it.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into the Bond and Luke Brown yachts, what's your biggest takeaway?
I think it's that powerful reminder that we're all connected to the ocean, whether we realize it or not, and we each have a role to play in protecting it. It's about finding our own ways to bond with nature, making good choices, and hopefully inspiring others to do the same.
Well said. And to never underestimate the power of a good pair of socks. If you want to check out those awesome sock sailor we were talking about, you can find a link in the description. We'll also include a link to Luke Brown Yachts' website if you're, feeling inspired to set sail on your own adventure.
As Joe Bond says, until we bond again.